This is a message to all of the people that have ever been involved in organized stalking and harassment, period. But specifically, a message to all of the people that have personally stalked, harassed, manipulated me, and psychologically attacked me. This letter that I wrote is specifically to my neighbors. I'm going to put this in an envelope and I'm going to give it to each one of my neighbors with the card you saw at the beginning of this video. This is the back of the card. Okay, you can pause the screen if you want to check that out. This is my letter to all of my neighbors. If you just received my letter and my card, this is to you specifically. I hope you're not involved in this. I don't think everyone in the neighborhood is involved. I do know that specific neighbors for sure are. So this is to you. This is to all of you. Involved, not involved. Hello, neighbor. My name is Michael Barden. I'm a victim of organized stalking and harassment. It happens right here in this neighborhood and just about everywhere I go. If you have never heard of this, you should go to my website, bardin.us. That's BARREDIN.us. There you can find interviews with former CIA, NSA, doctors, scientists, etc., covering the topic so you can further understand what I'm talking about. Perpetrators of this crime try to use the defense of the person is delusional to cover their crime when they are confronted. That no longer works, as we have more proof, government documents, and sworn affidavits from credible people with knowledge of this program than ever before. Many intelligent people are researching and trafficking. Some are, the bad guys. Researching and tracking the methods used on targets right here in this area. These methods are known as standard operating procedures. Standard operating procedures can be tracked, documented, and used in court as proof beyond the shadow of a doubt by using statistics. That being said, Avondale and our little neighborhood Glenhurst are starting to become known worldwide. Yes, people around the world know exactly what is going on here. Approximately 4 million people so far, if not more. It will double within a few months. That's just my videos. That's just me. There are thousands of other people doing the same thing. People that aren't going to let this happen anymore. You might have no idea what I'm talking about, or this might be starting to sound familiar. If it sounds familiar, it's because you are possibly involved. You might have been approached by a government official at your homeowners association meeting, neighborhood watch, etc. They may have given you some negative information about a neighbor that said something like, "We just need to keep an eye on this person to make sure the neighborhood's safe." A generality like that. These people are operating in an illegal psychological operation, which is a violation of 18 U.S. Code 241 and 242, conspiracy against rights and deprivation of rights under color of law. Also, U.S. Code 2261, stalking. Also, the First, Fourth, and 13th Amendments are violated. I highly recommend you find and read the United States. I'm going to back up. I highly recommend you find and read these United States laws and find a copy of the Constitution. They pertain to you. Even if you have a government clearance that states that you can legally take part even if you have a government clearance that states you can legally take part in these psychological operations, you are not protected by a national security letter. It is still a crime against humanity. A classified clearance does not protect crimes against humanity. The Nuremberg trials proved that once already. You should also research the Nuremberg trials if you don't know what happened there. Basically, the people taking part in the Stasi policing system were eventually brought before a judge and prosecuted for war crimes. By the way, the Geneva Conventions state that psychological warfare is illegal and considered a war crime. The people arrested and charged were just doing their job and keeping the neighborhood safe. It's much more than that. And if you choose to listen, the information I'm providing you will be fully aware of the entire program you could be taking part in. In December, I want you to pay very close attention to this. I've spent a lot of time researching this, and this is all verifiable by government documents. These links are to the whitehouse.gov and pacer.gov. So You should pay very close attention to this. In December of 2017, Executive Order 13818 was introduced to eradicate government corruption and seize all assets from unconstitutional government infiltrators. It specifically states that human trafficking is the main objective to eradicate. Organized stalking and harassment, or gang stalking, is 100% human trafficking. If citizens are earning a profit from another citizen without their consent, that is trafficking. So I'll just expound on that a little bit. If you pick somebody up and you move them to another place, you let somebody do something to them that they don't agree with, and you're making money by doing that, you are trafficking. If you are preventing a person from enjoying the rights that they deserve as an American citizen, and you are making profit off of that, you get it? Okay? I just paused there so you could think about that for a second. Just put those two together. If citizens are okay, yeah, plain and simple. It's not that hard to understand. That is the reason I'm reaching out to my neighbors. You might have been fooled by our government. Imagine that. That's never happened before, right? I've seen this while serving 15 years in the United States Air Force. Sometimes the government lies to our troops. They tell us we need to go fight for freedom, then realize we're fighting for oil or opium. Pure profit, not freedom. And now, not every single time. Sometimes there is a threat. There's a military threat. We use the Department of Defense for defense against that, not the other way around. But sometimes we do, which is why we have so much chaos in the world right now. All right, so sometimes the government, I'm sorry, I'd have to pause here a second. It's hard for me to read through this. Sometimes the government lies to the troops. They tell us what we need to go fight for freedom. I don't want to see my fellow Americans fooled in the same fashion. Our country is being divided now like never before, and I want to do everything I can in my power to help bring us back together. Again, the executive order states that all perpetrators of government corruption will be prosecuted and all assets will be stripped. That means that everything a gang stalker has earned will be seized. Think about that for a minute. Here's the link to Executive Order 13818. So I'm talking about your new car, your new pool, your all that stuff. They have government auctions every day. And once this goes through, there's going to be the largest government auctions probably ever in history. After the targeted individuals are indemnified for their pain and suffering for going through organized stalking and harassment, which again is a psychological operation. It's psychological torture, all right? So here's the link to 13818. On March 1st, 2018, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ, was updated to allow the United States military to legally arrest and detain American citizens. So that wasn't a possibility before January 1st at midnight, December 31st, midnight. January 1st, that went into effect. The United States military can now arrest United States citizens. And of course, people that are not citizens. Are you starting to see what's happening? Okay, now what you do is go to pacer.gov or look up information on these sealed indictments. Notice how many sealed indictments are going to be served this year. On average, the United States serves around 1,000 of these indictments. I did the research on this. Check this out all of this information is verifiable before I made this video. All of this is verifiable. Please go ahead and prove me wrong. Try to prove me wrong. This year, there are over 70,000 and growing. So I'm going to back up and I'm going to read that again because I cut myself off. On average, the United States serves around 1,000 of these indictments. This year, there are 70,000 and growing. Each of these 70,000 sealed indictments, pay attention here, indictments can have up to 94 co-defendants on each one of them. So that's, okay, pull out your calculator, see what that adds up to. I won't make you all get your calculator out. It's over 6 million. if there's 94 on each one of these 70,000 sealed indictments. I'm not making this up. This is all verifiable. I am just reporting the news. Okay? It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it? How would they arrest this many people all at once? How would they do that? How would they do that? The answer is with a military tribunal. Our troops and supplies from several bases around the world have been brought back to the U.S. for deployment. So if you followed any news lately, we've come back from Syria. We've come back from bringing troops back from different places and equipment here to the United States. A lot of it. Why would they be sending gear and troops back to the U.S. to deploy? For a military tribunal, of course. It's all right in front of your face. If you choose to be aware and do a little research. If this is the first time you were hearing of this crime, I know it's tough to absorb. It sounds like a weird movie. Just remember that reality is stranger than fiction sometimes. If you have any questions about this at all, anything, please message me at my website, barredin.us, bardin.us. We know who's responsible. We know where the funding comes from. We know which laws have been violated, and we are taking action in court as you are reading this. My affidavit has been submitted as a part of a class action lawsuit against this crime. I personally have names, addresses, and documented proof to show the harassment in our neighborhood and other areas. Now, this goes way back, but my best documentation is right here in Glenhurst. Right here in Glenhurst. Irrefutable evidence. If you would like to know who the main perpetrators of this crime are, just read this short book by Richard Lighthouse, who is a former NASA engineer. So Richard worked on satellites that went up into space, and he explains a lot of the technology and the compartmentalization of this program. Who's involved? Who's responsible? So Richard is a targeted individual like myself. Okay, now check this out. With the help of good police officer whistleblowers, he has identified crushing evidence to finally prosecute the Nazi leaders of this program. Yes, Nazi. Hitler did the same thing with this technology. With less technology. So, Operation Paperclip, we brought over a lot of the scientists, engineers, doctors, psychiatrists from Germany at gunpoint and made them give up their information. And then they put that into operation here in the United States. So that's been building since World War II, right after World War II. In case you folks didn't know that, also verifiable, check it out. Whether you are involved in this program or not, you should read this book. It will affect you in one way or another, eventually, no matter who you are. Okay, here's the link right here. There's the link. Okay, I served 15 years in the Air Force. 5 as a crash fire rescue firefighter. That was 5 years, stayed active duty, full-time, 48 hours on, 48 hours off. Firefighter, drove several fire apparatus. I did that for 5 years. Responded, first responder, but all the things firefighter does. Okay. I was going to leave the military completely and start an insurance agency, start a business. I wanted to start a bigger business and do bigger things. Not that helping people isn't a big thing, but I wanted to be financially independent, and I wanted to make some moves, maybe get into politics later, not politics, but government, and try to fix some things, It seems like the people that have money end up in these positions. So, just possibly thinking about that. They said when I was leaving, they said, hey, we know you're a photographer. You take pretty good photos. We've seen your photos. You want to be a photographer for the Air Force? Stay here. Just stay in the Air National Guard. Do that. I said, yeah. Next thing you know, I'm at Fort Meade, Maryland, Defense Information School, right across from the NSA. learning to be a multimedia journalist, not a photographer, but a multimedia journalist. Came back, ended up working 3, 4, 6 months out of the year after 9/11. Ran my insurance agency, worked for the military base 3 to 6 months out of the year as a journalist, multimedia journalist, also doing videography and photography. I did all of it, traveled all over for them, did all kinds of that for 10 years. Covering stories, going to fires up in Northern California, going to Florida, going to the Middle East, doing all kinds of stuff. Actually, the Middle East was when I was with the fire department. Anyway, I did 15 years in the military. And with those two jobs, does it, do I sound like a journalist right now? Stuttering? Do these sound like jobs that a violent person would take part in? That a firefighter and a journalist? Would that be the job that a violent person picks? Wouldn't they maybe go into infantry? Not saying that all people that end up in infantry are violent. A lot of times you go in non-classified. You don't know what your job's going to be, whatever they call it. I had a guaranteed job when I went in. I had Adam sign, hey, I'm going to be a firefighter when I get back. Okay. Some people don't know that. So, but think about that for a minute. So, am I a bad person, or did I talk about things people in power did not want me to talk about? Yeah, yeah, a lot of it. While I was in the military, on Facebook, talking about 9/11, talking about a lot of different fraud, waste, and abuse issues that I saw. Now, think about this, people. So I'm still doing everything I can to protect this country from enemies, foreign and domestic, by providing pertinent information to my fellow citizens. Please use common sense, think for yourself, stop being fooled with fear. Have a great day.